Now, you might really be doing some great exercises. You might also be eating very clean and very healthy. And also, your sleep pattern is just amazing. And even though you're doing everything correctly, then why are you not losing weight? Well, there might be one reason, and that is your hormones, and why it's so important to know your hormones when it comes to weight loss. So, if you're someone who is struggling with weight loss despite putting your best efforts possible, it's time that you understand your hormones because that might just be the missing piece of the puzzle. So, what we are going to do is we're just going to try and understand these 8 key hormones that are very important if you're trying to lose weight. Now, you must have heard people use this word quite a lot. Maybe your friend just has told you that, listen, I'm very moody today and I blame it on my hormones. Or maybe when you were in your teens and you saw these different changes happening to your body, we all know that it was your hormones. So, what are they exactly? The hormones are these chemical messengers that travel in your body through your bloodstream to different organs and tissues. And what they do is that they slowly work over time, affecting a lot of different processes of your body, like your growth and development, your metabolism, your sexual function, and even something like your mood. And when it comes to weight loss, your hormones play a very important role. And you have to look at hormones as your internal communication system. And hormones almost influence everything from your hunger to how your body stores fat to even things like weight loss and even growth. And from all these 8, the very first one that we are going to try and understand first is insulin. Now, when you eat, you know that insulin rises and it does its job of taking that glucose and using it for energy or putting it in a fat cell. But when you start eating very often, what happens at that point is that your insulin is released very often. And the more often insulin is released, your body is not going to focus on burning fat. So your body at that point of time won't really focus on weight loss. It will focus more on getting the job done by taking the sugar and putting it in a cell. And if you constantly keep eating, your insulin levels will always be on the rise and your body cannot focus on weight loss. And if you're someone who even snacks in between, even though it's a small portion of anything with refined carbs or sugars, eventually your body is going to become insulin resistant. So, if you really want to manage your insulin levels, you have to do something really simple. Firstly, just focus on a diet that has a lot of whole foods in it. Try your best to reduce your sugar intake because the more you have high sugary foods, your insulin levels will stay for longer in your bloodstream and it will be much harder for you to lose weight. And with this, also try and include a lot of your fiber and a lot of your protein intake. And if you're constantly eating and you're constantly releasing insulin, that will lead to a lot of fat storage and you're going to find it very difficult to lose weight. So just make sure that even if you're eating clean, maintain a lot of gaps between your meals so that your insulin is not constantly on the rise and avoid any kind of snacking in between. And what you can do is if you've just consumed a meal, after the meal, try and go for a very light walk. So it's not that you're brisk walking or it's not that you're running, it's just a very casual walk because that will help and aid with your digestion. Now, next, what we really need to focus on is leptin. Now, leptin is this hormone which is also known as the satiety hormone. Now, this hormone is produced by a fat cell. What it does is that it tells your brain that, listen, I've got enough energy stored, so stop sending in food. And that's how your brain sends the signal and your appetite is reduced. Or you get the signal of feeling full. But if you're someone who's constantly eating calories, it can cause something called as leptin resistance. This especially happens with someone who is obese. So they normally suffer from this, but somewhere even normal people do. And this means that despite you having high levels of leptin, your brain just doesn't understand the signal that you are already full and that you really need to stop eating, which ends up leading into overeating. And one of the main reasons that causes leptin to behave in a certain way is poor quality sleep. And it's not just the quality, but also the quantity of sleep. And when you have really bad or poor quality sleep, your brain doesn't really understand or get the signal that it's really full, which eventually makes you eat a lot more and also makes you go for the very unhealthy snacks. So to not let these leptin levels go crazy, just make sure that you're sleeping properly. Now, the next hormone is ghrelin. Now, ghrelin is also known as the hunger hormone. So ghrelin is produced by the stomach and it signals the brain that it's hungry. And the levels of ghrelin, they rise and fall before and after eating your meal. That's why after you eat and you still see food, you don't really feel hungry. And if you have high levels of ghrelin, it can make you feel hungrier and it can make weight loss very challenging. And if you have to manage ghrelin, there are few things that you should do. Number one is eat meals that are nutrient dense and just make sure that you're eating enough of protein, fiber, and you're getting good enough nutrients from your meal. Try to avoid going on a lot of fat diets and a lot of starvation diets because those things don't really help you and they will make you hungrier even more. So, a lot of people go on diets that are just trending, like maybe egg and tomatoes, and they will try this and your body will just go in a state of shock and it will make you feel more hungry and it will crave a lot of foods that you really don't want to get in your body. So just make sure that you're not having an extreme diet and just make sure that you're also not starving yourself for many days. And just like leptin, just try and focus on getting good quality sleep because when you have bad quality sleep, your ghrelin levels will fluctuate and later on you'll just end up feeling hungrier. Also, one thing you must have noticed is that when you're stressed, your ghrelin levels are quite high and you always go in for snack. That's why some people call it as, oh, I'm stress eating because when you're stressed you want to eat much more and that increases your appetite and it will be very difficult if you're planning to lose weight. And one more thing also when it comes to keeping your ghrelin levels in place is that try to make sure that you carry or you're already pre-planned something that you're going to eat because when you are really hungry anything that you see in front of you you end up eating, which can also lead to weight gain. So just make sure that you don't reach a point where you're extremely hungry and you just go in for the junk food or your refined carbs. Try and make sure that somewhere you already know what you're going to eat next. Because all this junk food is just going to spike your insulin levels. Now we spoke about ghrelin, leptin, and even insulin, but there are also other hormones that are very important when it comes to your weight loss. And the next that we are going to talk about is your thyroid hormones. So just around here, you have these thyroid glands, and these thyroid glands, where they produce these hormones which are called T3 and T4, they help you regulate your metabolism. And these glands are really tiny, but they do quite a lot. So there is a normal range of your thyroid hormone, but just in case your thyroid is underactive and it's not really producing a lot of this hormone, that is what they call as hypothyroidism. So what happens at this point is that it slows down your metabolism. So people who are suffering from hypothyroidism will notice a lot of weight gain and they find it really hard to lose weight. And just in case you're not aware of what the symptoms of hypothyroidism are, well, they include few things like fatigue, a lot of weight gain, and also you just start feeling cold. And for people who their thyroid is underactive, you will notice that they start to gain weight very easily. And on the other end, if your thyroid glands are overactive, then it's called something as hyperthyroidism. And that is just the opposite. So it will cause a lot of weight loss, you will have a lot of anxiety and a lot of palpitations. So if you have to support your thyroid health, things that you really need to do is make sure that you're getting a lot of iodine and a lot of selenium in your diet. Now, the next hormone is what we call the stress hormone, and that is your cortisol. And most of us just know this because of all the influencers out there talking about how cortisol affects a lot of your weight loss and your weight gain. Now, the thing with this hormone is that short bursts of this hormone is pretty normal. It doesn't really cause any problem. So if you're working out and you're doing a lot of stressful exercises, your body will release cortisol, but it is nothing to worry about. But if you have chronic stress of cortisol, that is a problem. Because when you're chronically stressed, that leads to elevated cortisol levels, which means that you will have increased appetite and your body will try and store a lot of your fat, especially your abdominal fat. And eventually, all these hormones are quite interconnected. So if you're chronically stressed, which means high levels of cortisol, that means you will want to eat a lot more. So you will end up craving for all those refined sugars, you will want to go for those potato chips, those processed food, and all of that instead of causing weight loss will cause weight gain. And if you are chronically stressed, then fat loss becomes pretty difficult and close to impossible. So here's what you can do. If you're chronically stressed, try a few things to manage your stress, which is very important. So try deep breathing, try pranayams, try a lot of your yoga exercises if you love them. Do a lot of therapeutic things like maybe just wanting to take a walk. You love to paint, you love to dance, you love to just do simple things like even write. Anything that you feel will just be therapeutic and it will lower your stress. That is the thing that you should do. It doesn't have to be anything very specific, but just try and make sure that you do something that will lower your stress level and something that you also enjoy. But with this, just make sure you're doing regular exercise and also you're sleeping well. Now, the next hormone that we are going to talk about is estrogen. Now, estrogen is a sex hormone and it affects fat distribution. And it causes a lot of imbalances, especially for women who are reaching menopause. And at that time, women see a lot of weight gain, particularly around the abdomen area. Now, high intake of processed food and even unhealthy fats, they disrupt the levels of estrogen. Even something like cow's milk or even dairy products plays a very big role when it comes to increasing your estrogen levels. So just try and stay away from dairy too, especially women. And one of your best ways to maintain estrogen levels is try your best and regularly exercise. Because once you start exercising, you automatically start eating healthier, and that entire cycle just helps with your estrogen levels. Now, the next hormone that we are going to talk about is adiponectin. Now, high levels of this hormone, adiponectin, is associated with lower fat. So, if you're consuming foods like your avocado, your seeds, your nuts, or even things like your olive oil, they can help increase your adiponectin levels. But if you're someone who's consuming a lot of high trans fats like your junk food, your McDonald's, your Burger King, even if you're having a lot of sugary or high fructose foods, they lower your adiponectin levels. So if you want to really maintain this hormone, then just make sure that you are a little more active, because if you live a sedentary lifestyle, then your body is just going to have lower adiponectin levels. Mostly for people who are working in your office and you're constantly sitting just on a chair like I am doing right now, your adiponectin levels start to reduce. And if you are holding a lot of fat in your body, that means your adiponectin levels are already low. So what you need to do is try and do some kind of movement. Try to not always sit on a chair, which reminds me, I should walk. So if you're doing an office job, try to get up, walk around, and come back to your place. At least it will give your body some form of movement. And even when you're back home, try to not just be a couch potato. Do things that make you move, because your body is designed to move, and the more you move, your adiponectin levels will stay high. And the last hormone that we are going to talk about is a PYY. This hormone is released after eating and it reduces your appetite. And what reduces the PYY levels is when you start consuming foods with low fiber. And to maintain these PYY levels and your hormone to function properly, include a lot of fiber rich foods like your fruits, your vegetables, your whole grains, and anything that is fiber rich. Because these will boost your PYY levels and they will also keep you fuller for longer. And if you're someone who just has a habit of consuming very unhealthy, high fat foods, somewhere they can all impair the level of your PYY levels. So just make sure that you're having enough fiber. Now, all these hormones that I've just spoken about, they all are very important when it comes to your weight loss. Now, they are also very interconnected. So even if one kind of goes a little imbalanced, it affects different things in your body. And if somewhere you feel like one of these hormones might be the problem when it comes to you not losing weight, well, fix it with your lifestyle habits and eventually you will see weight loss. And if you have any questions, do let me know in the comments. And until we meet again next, don't stress and be awesome. Rocher that.